Happy Workers' Day and welcome to Sunset News. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather, and sports. I am Glenora Shipura. Getting into the news tonight, President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah earlier today addressed the audience at Oshakati Independence Stadium, where Workers' Day was being commemorated. She was welcomed by Oshana Governor Elia Irimari, SWAPO Party Oshikoto Regional Coordinator Armas Amukuyu, and Petrus Nevonga, the General Secretary of NAPWA. Let's have a look.
I care less about workers. I said at my victory rally that I'm going to take some decisions that might not be popular, that might offend some people. But I must tell you, I will never take a decision which is to offend any people, which is against the Namibian people. But all decisions I will take is because I love Namibians. And this is one of the decisions. The Minister of Justice must make sure that social justice prevails in the labor market in this country. There must be harmonious relationship in the labor market, as it is the backbone of our economy. If labor relations collapse, the economy will collapse. So we must understand it, fellow Namibians, from that context. Director of Ceremonies, in 3 days, we are going to...
In a rather unfortunate state of affairs, 7 robbers hit the Hemu service station in Rundu early this morning between 3 and 4 a.m., injuring 1 employee and stealing $185 Namibian and 80 cents in cash, according to the manager. Felicia Gabriel, the suspect, also made off with biltong, cigarettes, condoms, sweets, chocolates, and 2 money drawers during the robbery. In our next story, the High Court of Namibia has dismissed Trustco Group Holdings' attempt to exclude elements of the Namibia Revenue Agency's case in a major tax dispute involving $593 million in alleged unpaid taxes. Trustco, represented by senior counsel Reinhard Tottemeyer, launched an offensive challenging NAMRA's 2022 decision to revoke prior payment arrangements and demand immediate tax settlement. Tottemeyer contended that NAMRA's conduct was procedurally unfair, irrational, and constitutionally deficient. He argued that the agency violated Article 18 of the Namibian Constitution, which guarantees lawful and fair administrative action. According to Tottemeyer, Trustco had been issued good standing tax certificates and was never afforded a proper opportunity to be heard before the abrupt shift in NAMRA's approach, a breach of the audi alteram partem principle, the right to a fair hearing. Tottemeyer also took aim at Section 91 of the Income Tax Act and Section 36 of the VAT Act, alleging these laws unjustifiably infringed on Trustco's rights under Article 12, access to courts, and Article 16, protection of property. He described the laws as granting NAMRA excessive powers to enforce a tax collection without sufficient judicial oversight. Furthermore, he invoked the functus officio principle, arguing that NAMRA had no legal authority to revisit. Advocate Emerencia Leonard, appearing for NAMRA, firmly rejected the allegations, defending the agency's conduct as lawful, necessary, and constitutionally sound. She argued that Trustco had persistently failed to comply with multiple payment plans and that NAMRA's decision to demand immediate settlement was a justified and proportionate response to escalating arrears, which grew from $238 million mid-2021 to nearly $593 million by December 2023. Leonard noted that Trustco had not been denied procedural rights, noting that the statutory framework allowed taxpayers to object to assessments, appeal to the special court, and seek review by the High Court, all of which Trustco had actively done. In our next story, stakeholders in Namibia's offshore oil and gas sector are calling for the urgent creation of an independent offshore safety regulator amid concerns that the country's current safety oversight mechanisms are inadequate for a rapidly advancing industry. The call was made during the Erongo Offshore Safety Conference being held in Swakopmund, where Knowledge Ipinge, chief strategist of the Namibian Association for Offshore Oil and Gas Service Providers, said the absence of an independent regulatory body leaves workers vulnerable to unsafe practices and exposes the country to environmental and reputational risk. The journey we are embarking on today began in March 2020, when I witnessed firsthand how offshore workers face anxiety due to legal and policy gaps in the sector. Ipinge said, "We cannot continue with a paternalistic top-down model. We must create a regulator that is fully empowered and free from corporate influence." Namibia's current offshore governance framework is primarily grounded in the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act of 1991, which mandates environmental impact assessments and contains provisions for pollution control under Section 71. However, according to Ipinge, the Act does not provide for an autonomous regulator dedicated exclusively to health, safety, and environmental matters in offshore operations. He said that presently safety monitoring responsibilities fall under various arms of government, including the Ministry of Mines and Energy, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, and local disaster risk committees. This fragmented oversight is said to create loopholes that could lead to oversight failures as the scale of petroleum activity grows, with offshore drilling projects entering exploratory and pre-development phases. The demand for a single professional oversight body is rising. Controversial MIDCO board member Joseph Andreas has alerted the Anti-Corruption Commission to allegations that fellow MIDCO board members, including veteran business leader Sakaria Nghikembwa, who chairs the board, allegedly lacked the qualifications to serve on the company's board. These claims are contained in Andreas' scathing letter dated the 1st of April to Nghikembwa, which is also carbon copied to ACC Director Paulus Now, Finance Minister Erika Shafuda, and President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. Grootfontein-based businessman Andreas, an influential voice within SWAPO, is among those strongly pushing for the return of the former MIDCO CEO Mwilima Mushukumbanji, whose contract expired in January this year, to the company. Another group advocating for Mushukumbanji's reinstatement is also accused of playing a role in the ouster of former Finance Minister Ipumbu Shimi from cabinet, reportedly partly due to his refusal to reinstate the former CEO. Shimi considered the directive unlawful, and a legal opinion by Attorney General Festus Mbandeka vindicated his stance. The Nghikembwa-led board opted not to renew Mushukumbanji's contract after assessing his performance. Andreas' lobbying to have his fellow directors removed is believed to be by some part of a broader plan to bring back the former CEO. It is alleged that a campaign was orchestrated to portray Shimi and the board as intent on privatizing MIDCO, an accusation that was reportedly circulated within SWAPO circles to sow discord against those implicated in this alleged plot. Nghikembwa published the allegations, stating that the board has never on any day discussed the privatization of MIDCO. This false narrative is therefore driven to cast aspirations on individuals appointed to the board by casting them as someone's puppets, merely appointed to private MIDCO. rather to privatize Midco. He added that the decision to change ownership of Midco is not for the board, but for the shareholder. If ever that was a consideration, Andreas alleges that the appointment of Nghi Kembwa, as well as fellow board members Martin Hilbert, Cyprianus Kasep, and Adolf Muremi, was made irregularly and should be investigated. Andreas also claims that while all short-listed candidates were interviewed face-to-face early last year, Nghi Kembwa and Hilbert were interviewed virtually and a week later than the others. That brings us to the end of our top stories. On the other side of the break, we take a look at our community talk. The 18th edition of the annual Lüderitz Crayfish Festival officially commenced today with a march through the streets of the harbour town. The official opening took place at the Old Power Station Auditorium with the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Land Reform, Ruthie Masake, set to deliver the keynote address. The Deputy Minister of Industries, Mines and Energy, Gaudentia Kruane, paid tribute to micro, small and medium enterprises. In her keynote address at the 18th Annual Lüderitz Crayfish Festival Business Conference, in a speech read on her behalf by Desmond Shipanga, a development planner and business inspector at the Karas Regional Office of the Ministry. Let's have a look.
This annual event is a celebration and a proud tribute to our rich marine resources and the vibrant spirit of entrepreneurship that drives the town of Lüderitz forward. This year's business conference is held under the theme Empowering Local Enterprises for the Sustainable Future. This theme resonates deeply within all who believe in driving prosperity and sustainable development for the benefit of all Namibians. It is also a call for action for us to remain committed towards fostering growth, innovations, and resilience in our economy. As we gather here, we recognize the micro, small, and medium enterprises are the backbone of our economy. They bring about economic drive at the grassroots, create employment, and reduce unemployment. They bring creativity and serve as a lifeblood that sustains our communities. Micro, small, and medium enterprises are where ideas become realities, where commitment meets perseverance, and where foundation of economies are laid. Micro, small, and medium enterprises are the scaffolding that supports economic structure and enable communities to grow. Therefore, today we celebrate you, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the dreamers, who play an essential role in shaping the future of Lüderitz and the Namibia at large. As we explore the potential of local industries, we must recognize the transformative impact that sectors such as oil and gas, as well as green hydrogen and energy generations, to name the few, can have on our economy. These emerging and existing sectors present unique opportunities for our micro, small, and medium enterprises to actively contribute to economic growth. Critical element in empowering our micro, small, and medium enterprises is facilitating access to financial resources.
Moving on in our economic news, construction of the first formal houses in Swakopmund's DRC informal settlement is scheduled to begin this month. More on these in our economic news segment on the other side of the break. Getting into our economic news, construction of the first formal houses in Swakopmund's DRC informal settlement is scheduled to begin this month. This follows the distribution of land ownership certificates to over 800 DRC residents in April 2023, enabling beneficiaries to access municipal services, connect to electricity, and build permanent homes. The program is a joint initiative between the Swakopmund municipality and the National Housing Enterprise, with infrastructure funding from the central government. Now, as part of the first phase, 7 pilot houses will be constructed, with 6 more scheduled to break ground soon. This initiative symbolizes a concrete step in our efforts to provide secure, dignified housing to residents in informal settlements. Deputy Mayor Sauma Kautondokwa stated at the last ordinary council meeting, now beneficiaries are only required to pay a one-time administration fee of 1,000 Namibian dollars as the land has been donated to them. The informal settlement upgrade program was launched in 2024 and aims to integrate underserved communities into the formal urban structure. Kautondokwa at the same time issued a warning about the rising incidence of copper theft in areas undergoing the development, including the DRC settlement, saying the criminal activity is jeopardizing infrastructure upgrades and delaying service provision. According to her, copper theft has disrupted electricity supply and hindered the progress of housing and service projects intended to uplift informal communities. When copper infrastructure is stolen, the entire community suffers from delayed service and increased cost, she lamented. In our next economic news story, the International Monetary Fund says countries across the Middle East and North Africa face significant challenges to economic growth as they face uncertainty due to tariff measures, lower than recent oil prices, and cuts to financial aid. In its outlook report for the MENA region, the United Nations Financial Agency says Brent crude oil prices, which are down from highs above $120 a barrel in 2022, are likely to be $65 to $69 per barrel in 2025 and 2026. These will make energy exporting economies vulnerable to market fluctuations, it adds. Tariff plans by the US and other countries and geopolitical tensions also have created mounting global uncertainty that is weighing down on the region's economies, and this could negatively impact their growth by anywhere from 2% to 4.5%, explains Jihad Azou, who is the Director for Middle East and Central Asia at the IMF. Now, reductions in foreign aid coming into the region also will play a role, Azou adds, especially after US President Donald Trump pulled his country back from its position as the world's single largest aid donor. Although growth in the MENA region is expected to be 2.6% this year, as compared to 1.8% last year, he adds that the global economic uncertainty could impact the outlook, and he urges countries in the region to devise policies in order to protect their economies. Despite the global economic uncertainty, MENA nations can drive growth through structural reforms and diversifying economic ties, the IMF report says. Now, economies in the Persian Gulf continue to attract substantial foreign direct investment, rising by nearly 2% of GDP since the pandemic, while other MENA nations struggle with slower inflows. The IMF says it is willing to work with some of the struggling nations and the new government in Syria. Speaking in Dubai, Azou also says that IMF staff and Lebanese officials are in discussions. Let's now have a look at our financial indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 24.74, against the euro at 21.04, against the US dollar at 18.60. 2 Namibian dollars and 56 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. On the commodities market, all major commodities went down, with Brent crude oil trading at 3.25%, going for $61 and 69 cents per barrel. On the other side of the break, we take a look at our international news, starting off with a Kenyan member of parliament that has been shot dead in the streets of the capital, Nairobi. Getting into our international news, a Kenyan member of parliament has been shot dead in the streets of the capital, Nairobi, by gunmen on a motorcycle in a suspected assassination. Police said the attackers had been trailing Charles Ongondo Were's vehicle before one of them got off the motorbike and shot him at close range. The nature of this crime appears to be both targeted and predetermined. Police spokesperson Muchiri Ngayaga said in a statement the opposition MP had 2 months ago complained about threats to his life, local media reported. After the shooting on late Wednesday, his driver and bodyguard, both unhurt, managed to rush the injured MP to Nairobi Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The attack happened along Ngonga Road near a busy roundabout, often manned by traffic police officers and well-secured security with security cameras. Shortly after the shooting, senior police commanders and detectives visited the scene and investigations are underway, police have said. We can now take a look at our weather predictions for tomorrow. The capital city can expect a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 23 degrees Celsius with partly cloudy conditions, while Oshakati can enjoy sunny weather with a minimum of 21 and a maximum of 30 degrees Celsius. Henties Bay can expect a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 18 degrees Celsius with partly cloudy conditions, while Adams Fleck can enjoy a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 17 degrees Celsius with sunny weather conditions. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Thank you for tuning in and catching your news with Sunset News. From me, Glenn Rashipura. Until next time.